Hey guys, it's Alex here from Game Watcher, and I've just seen a demo of Civilization, Rising Tide. Well, Civilization Beyond Earth, Rising Tide. I'll get it right.
Sid Meier, Civilization Beyond Earth, Rising Tide.
Can't forget Sid.
It's 42 letters long. I counted today.
How does that?
Everything.
How does that get in the GameStop database?
Carefully, I'm guessing.
Yeah. So just saw a demo of that. Looks pretty rad. And now I'm here with one of the guys who's working on the game.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do on the game.
Sure. My name's Andrew Fredrickson. I'm the lead producer, and basically that means a lot of managing schedules day to day, working with the designers to make sure that everything they're doing is going to fit and we get all the support that we need, and helping review the game, listen to all the feedback, making sure that everything's being considered, nothing's forgotten. It's kind of just sort of running around and making sure it moves forward and gets done.
So yeah, you just mentioned feedback as well, and obviously we just talked about this before the cameras rolled. How did you feel about the reception to Beyond Earth and the feedback you got, and then how did that all plow into this at a broad level?
Right. I think the one of the biggest pieces of feedback when we hear it is we didn't go far enough. And I think we accept that, and I think there's certainly some truth to that. Whenever you're doing something that's it's another Civilization game, but it's not a historical one. It's it's in the future. It's sci-fi. So, we want to take advantage of that, but we don't want to leave Civ behind. It's obviously still very much a Civilizations game. We just needed to go a step further. And with Rising Tide, that's part of what the name means to us. Obviously water gameplay, a name like Rising Tide, there's a pretty clear connection there. But when we were going through the naming process, one of the things we really liked about Rising Tide is it's not just the water, it's all the stakes. Yeah. We're doubling down with, the whole world is now we're going to play, not just on land. Though, diplomacy system is something that you're always involved in, not just when you want to be. So a lot of bigger, more taking a step further away from what people might think of Civ and showing them this is still Civ. It's just a new kind of Civ.
And that was one of the things, and I'm actually genuinely curious about this, because obviously you touched on it in the demo, the new diplomacy stuff, but it was a very quick touch on. So can you tell us a little more about how that's working, how that's going to change the way you interact with the AIs, and also that's obviously showing up more data to you, but has the way the AIs are making their decisions changed? Right.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everything in there, everything in diplomacy has been touched or changed or replaced or enhanced. Basically, the new diplomacy system is founded on a few things. One of those things is traits. Traits are, everyone can have up to 4, and they are what make up sort of your Civ. You're going to have one that's unique to your Civ. You can't change it ever, but if you pick Hutama, you get Hutama trait. And that's going to affect his AI, that's part of Hutama. But then Hutama, one game, he might pick a trait that makes him favor trade. In another game, he might pick one that makes him favor military. And these things are going to affect not only how he behaves, but also what things he cares about, what actions he takes, some bonuses that he gets. And these are all things on the player as well. So as a player, I'm going to equip traits. I'm going to upgrade my traits. And along with all these perks that I'm getting and this AI behavior, they also offer what we call services. And services are something that you can buy. So if you and I are playing against each other, I look at your traits and I say, oh, he's got this one that's going to make military units faster. I want to buy that. So I rent it from you, basically. I pay you every turn a little bit for access to that. So it's like buying things from each other, playing around with, and so it becomes something that you're involved in all the time. So even if I'm not doing anything right now, you might be buying from me, or I'm choosing what things I have available and other people may buy or may not buy. And it's a new web that you're always in from the very beginning. So
that's really interesting. And does that impact on the affinity stuff at all, or is that largely similar to how it was?
Affinities have changed, but not as much with the diplomacy. Now, you will find that leaders, we've added a lot more dialogue. Not only are we giving you this, these traits that are going to give you insight into what their personality is, but you're also going to see more flavor, more Hutama lines, more Barre lines. You're going to understand these people more, not just their bonuses or their behavior, and that stuff will all tie together. The affinities will have a little bit of effect there, like some of the dialogue lines are referencing that, or people react. If we have the same affinity, my fear or my respect for you may change, good or bad. But Affinities' biggest change is the new hybrid affinities. And, in base BE, if you wanted an affinity victory, you really had to focus on that. Because, you'd almost be like, oh man, I don't really want to get the harmony because I'm going purity or whatever your choice was. But now, the rebalance that we've done to the affinities, some big, some small, we've moved where the victories are, we've added more ways for you to get some affinity, and you're going to unlock these hybrids that are going to reward you for having those things without penalizing you for going for a victory.
Cool. And so diplomacy is obviously one of the main pillars of Civ.
Right.
The other is, of course, blowing stuff up. So
that's the way I play.
Yeah. So how's combat changed for this? I mean, new units and stuff, but are there any big changes?
Well, the biggest one that I got to say, and one of my personal favorite things to do, is moving your water city. Oh. So you can actually take your water city, and instead of producing a unit or making a building, you can say, I want to move. And it takes some time. I mean, it's a city. It's not going to be that fast. But you can move it forward. So you can bring that with you as, either a forward base to be cranking out units or help defeat guys who are coming after you. So you can migrate, or you can go after someone. You can run away from someone. And that, having a landscape that changes in that way is just crazy.
That's pretty cool. That's some James Bond villain stuff. That's pretty cool. And that's only the water cities.
Well, right now it's the water cities. It's, everything's in discussion.
Cool. And obviously, there's a lot of crazy new stuff being added to this. Do you see you guys looking down the line and saying, okay, when you next, I assume it's when, not if, really, go back to a more traditional Civ, you guys going to be looking at the changes you made here, maybe trying to find ways to deploy stuff?
Yeah, I think that one of the great things about Firaxis and having all these different titles that we're working on, there's a lot of conversation between the different teams, and when people work on one, or when people from different teams talk to each other, ideas are shared all the time. Yeah. So, I wouldn't say that there's a plan to take anything, but there's also not a plan to not take anything. Yeah. It may not show up in the same way. Ideas like affinities are great. They're new. They're big. Does that mean something in another game? Maybe it does. Maybe it gives someone else an idea to springboard off of. So, no secrets to share about carrying any one thing, but definitely it's a conversation. We don't throw anything out just because it was in another game. So.
Cool. And you just mentioned the water cities, and that was a favorite of yours. But is there anything particular that you want to have people look out for in the final game?
I gotta say, I think that the biggest thing that you're gonna have to do is rethink your strategies. A lot of them, they're still viable, but your toolkit's expanded, and so is your enemies. So just because something worked in the base game, I wouldn't assume that it's always going to work again, or you might have ways to even do it better. So come at this with a very open mind, because if you try to do the same thing, you're going to get surprised.
Nice. So when are you guys out?
We're out this fall.
Cool. So no exact date yet, but fall. Thank you so much, man.
No, of course.
That's excellent.
Thank you.
The game's looking really cool. So.
All right. Thank you.
See you next time, guys.